You don't need permission to belong, reclaiming your power at every table. Welcome to the Soft Girl Era podcast, where we explore what it truly means to shift from constantly grinding to finally grounding in joy, peace, softness, and self prioritization. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce like sweet softness whispered in French. I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I'm absolutely electrified to share insights from my recent interview with Deirdre Arinwine, a revolutionary force in the movement for Black excellence and belonging in professional spaces. Deirdre isn't just talking about change, she's creating it. Through her groundbreaking work, she has transformed how thousands of Black professionals view themselves in spaces that weren't designed with them in mind. Her methodology of belonging without permission has become a rallying cry for those tired of waiting to be invited to tables where they've always deserved a seat. When I sat down with Deirdre, I expected wisdom. What I received was nothing short of revolutionary, a perspective that shatters everything we've been taught about belonging, especially as high achieving Black women. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt that suffocating pressure to justify your presence, that gnawing feeling that you needed someone's permission to take up space? That whisper in your ear suggesting you might just be the scraps left behind? This feeling haunts so many of us. It follows us into boardrooms, networking events, and sometimes even family gatherings. We've been conditioned, no, programmed to believe that belonging is something granted to us by others, that we need external validation to confirm our worthiness of occupying certain spaces. But here's the revolutionary insight Deirdre shared that completely transforms this narrative. Belonging isn't something bestowed upon you by others. It's your birthright. It's not about waiting for permission or validation. It's about claiming your space and knowing deep in your bones that you deserve to be there, regardless of the narratives or obstacles constructed around you. Too often, especially for Black professionals and entrepreneurs, the world tries to convince us we are the scraps left behind, the afterthought, the diversity hire, the token representation. But Deirdre's work powerfully reminds us that our presence and contributions aren't just valid, they're vital. We belong at every table we choose to sit at, not because someone graciously allowed us in, but because our perspectives, experiences, and brilliance make that table worth sitting at in the first place. This perspective is revolutionary because it completely shifts the power dynamic. It places the power back in our hands. It reminds us that belonging is not something we need to earn or be given, it's something we claim. As Deirdre eloquently put it during our conversation, the moment you realize that your belonging is not contingent on someone else's approval is the moment you truly begin to transform spaces with your presence. Let that sink in for a moment. Your belonging is not contingent on someone else's approval. This insight aligns perfectly with what we explore on Soft Girl Era, the journey of unlearning survival mode and reclaiming our right to exist fully, softly, and unapologetically in every space we enter. From my profound conversation with Deirdre, three essential insights emerged that I believe are transformative for every high achieving Black woman on her journey from constantly grinding to finally grounding. First, your sense of belonging is not contingent on external approval. It starts with your own unshakable conviction that you are worthy and your contributions matter. This is particularly powerful for those of us who have spent decades trying to prove our worth in professional settings, in our communities, and sometimes even in our own families. Sister, you don't need anyone's permission to belong. The table is lucky to have you. Second, resilience is built through community and intentional mentorship. We weren't meant to walk this journey alone, carrying the weight of representation on our shoulders without support. Seeking out spaces and networks committed to supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs and professionals isn't just helpful, it's essential for sustainable success and well being. And third, every challenge you face as a Black professional or entrepreneur is an opportunity to rewrite the narrative, not only for yourself, but for those who come after you. Your journey and success create new blueprints for others to follow. When you refuse to accept the scraps left behind narrative, you create a new possibility for everyone who shares your experience. These insights aren't just theoretical concepts floating in the ether. They're being put into practice in powerful, tangible ways across various industries and organizations. Let me share some real world examples that Deirdre highlighted during our conversation that illuminate the transformative power of belonging without permission. In February 2025, something remarkable happened in Connecticut. Reset, a social enterprise incubator, acquired Collab Inc., an organization dedicated to supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs. Both organizations had been doing important work separately, but they faced significant barriers in reaching and supporting marginalized entrepreneurs across different regions. They were operating with limited resources, fragmented networks, and despite their best intentions, their impact was constrained by these limitations. The solution they found wasn't competition, it was collaboration. Instead of fighting over the same limited resources, they joined forces. By merging, they combined resources, expanded their mentor networks, and created a unified platform for greater statewide impact. The results have been nothing short of transformative. The acquisition led to dramatically increased access to business development programs, mentorship opportunities, and funding sources for Black and other underrepresented entrepreneurs throughout Connecticut. They expanded their reach to serve entrepreneurs statewide, enhanced their program offerings, and built a more inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem where belonging wasn't just talked about, it was structurally embedded. What makes this example so powerful is that it demonstrates how claiming space collectively can create entirely new ecosystems of belonging. These organizations didn't wait for permission to support underrepresented entrepreneurs. They created the infrastructure necessary to ensure that support was accessible, comprehensive, and sustainable. Another illuminating example comes from Denise O'Leary. Founder of Purple Marketing Limited, Denise was recently recognized as a Stevie Award finalist for her groundbreaking work in systemic mentoring and inclusive social change. What drove her to this work? She observed that many women, especially women of color, were systematically excluded from mainstream business networks and leadership pipelines. Instead of accepting this reality as immutable, she developed a mentoring framework specifically designed to empower women to lead, build, and win, focusing on dismantling the systemic barriers that kept them from claiming their rightful places in leadership. Her programs increased representation of women in leadership roles and created a culture of belonging within her company and the wider industry. What's particularly powerful about Denise's approach is that it wasn't born from abstract theory. It emerged from her own painful experiences with exclusion. She transformed her pain into purpose, using her intimate understanding of these challenges to create solutions that benefit others. Her work has inspired other businesses to adopt similar mentoring models, creating a ripple effect that extends far beyond her own company. This example reminds us that our struggles aren't just obstacles to overcome, they're insights that can become the foundation for systems that help others avoid those same struggles. When we claim our space and then intentionally create space for others, we transform not just our own experience, but the entire landscape. The third example Deirdre shared focuses on Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, which recently promoted leaders of color to senior executive roles as part of a broader strategy to align financial, operational, and mission impact for youth mentoring. The organization faced the challenge of ensuring that leadership reflected the diversity of the communities it serves while scaling impact and maintaining a culture of inclusion. They implemented strategic promotions, cross functional initiatives, and a renewed focus on enterprise wide alignment. The outcomes have been remarkable: enhanced operational excellence, increased representation in leadership, and greater organizational impact. While BBBSA has a long standing mission to ignite the power and promise of youth, they recognize that this mission couldn't be fully realized without leadership that mirrors the communities they serve. This example powerfully illustrates that claiming space isn't just about individual fulfillment. It's about creating systemic change that benefits entire communities. When leaders of color are empowered to bring their full selves to decision making tables, the entire organization becomes more effective, more inclusive, and more aligned with its mission. These examples share a common thread. They all demonstrate that belonging isn't passive. It's not something that happens to you, it's something you create through intentional action. It's about building spaces where everyone can thrive, not just survive. This brings me back to the core of what we explore on Soft Girl Era. For too long, many of us have been in survival mode, leading teams, raising families, holding down households, carrying communities. We've been the strong ones, the dependable ones, the ones who make things happen regardless of the cost to ourselves. But strength doesn't have to mean struggle. Resilience doesn't have to mean resistance. And belonging doesn't have to mean assimilation. As Deirdre powerfully stated in our interview, when you show up knowing you belong, you transform not just your experience, but the very nature of the space itself. Your presence becomes an invitation for others to claim their space too. This is what true transformation looks like: not just surviving in spaces that weren't built for us, but transforming those spaces through our authentic presence. It's about dropping the superwoman cape and embracing our full humanity, including our need for rest, community, and joy. It's about learning to say no without guilt, setting boundaries without apology, and protecting our peace as a non negotiable practice. It's about healing from the trauma of constantly having to prove our worth and redefining strength on our own terms. It's about embracing softness, not as weakness, but as a radical act of self love and self preservation in a world that often demands our hardness. I stand before you today not just as a podcast host, but as someone who has walked this journey of reclaiming belonging without permission. And I'm here to tell you that when you stop waiting for an invitation to the table and instead claim your rightful place, something magical happens. The table itself begins to transform. Your challenge, your opportunity is not to fit into spaces that weren't designed for you. Your challenge is to transform those spaces through the power of your unapologetic presence. What would happen if you stopped waiting for permission to belong and started showing up as if you already do? What doors would open, not just for you, but for everyone who comes after you? What systems would be forced to change in the face of your refusal to accept the scraps left behind narrative? I urge you with every fiber of my being: claim your seat at the table. Show up fully as yourself. Speak your truth without dilution. Bring your full brilliance without dimming your light. Because you are not the scraps left behind. You are the main event. You are not an afterthought. You are essential. Your voice, your perspective, your experience, your brilliance, they don't just deserve space, they transform space. Remember the powerful words of Audre Lorde: If I didn't define myself for myself, I would be crunched into other people's fantasies for me and eaten alive. Define yourself, claim your space, transform the world through your presence. The revolution of belonging without permission starts with you, right here, right now. Will you accept the challenge?